invited guest speakers, everybody. I am hoping that, and that's what I will proceed to do now, that Abdul can tell us a little bit about the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. We're recording this. I'm sure you're going to use this recording later. So it would be nice for you to speak about NKF. But I don't know if maybe a member of the BOT would like to do that as well. But I think it's a good place to start to talk about NKF and what NKF is doing and how we got here, so that we can then proceed and take that into the conversation. So Abdul.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me that to do. NKF in full is Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, a CSR department under NERA, which was completely immortalized after Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, the first president of Nigerian Internet Registration Association. The basic mandate for Ndukwe Kalu Foundation is three: to promote online safety with regards to children online with internet, to advance the teaching and learning of ICT with regards to the youth and also women founders. Also, the last of the list is to deeply dive into the DNS research sector and see how research fellows can keenly bring supporting projects that support modern innovation in the DNS industry. NKF has been around for the past 10 years, but actively became active with these few years to implement most of these mandates. And the reason for this pre-summit webinar is to plan ahead of the COSPRA Summit itself, as you can see from the banner behind me. This is a pre-summit ahead of the main summit coming up later this year. So these webinars are in tune to build awareness and promote child online safety towards the main summit itself. In this webinar, we have students who will be joining us. We have key industry stakeholders, and also we have you, our honorable speakers as well, to speak with regards to the safety and also the privacy of children online. So this is one out of the three mandates of NKF, Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, that we are currently discussing right now. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I was still muted. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
So welcome again, everybody. And I saw Mr. Olani on the call, Mr. Ni Yusuf on the call, and Mrs. Uduma. I don't know, they're both members of the Board of Trustees of NKF. I don't know, Sama, if there are a few words they would like to say. My eye is on the time. Well, they're here. Okay, Mrs. Uduma, Mr. Yusuf.
Everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
Yes, so thank you very much for answering our call to be here. You are welcome, everyone, to this program. This is a prelude to what we are preparing for from Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, just like Abdul has said. It is the corporate social responsibility arm of the Nigerian Internet Registration Association. So what we are doing is we are planning to have a big summit within the year, but these webinars are, preparatory processes of getting to do the big webinar. A big summit. The summit is not even a webinar again; it's a summit, and we're hoping to have it as a hybrid summit. And what are we looking at? We want to see how. Today we're looking at responsibility of all of us concerning the safety of children and young people online. And as we know that everything since the new normal started, whether it's education, health, even agriculture, or even your private businesses and your bank, everything has gone online. So children are also part of of the community that has gone on, that is online now. So we are asking, how can what responsibility do we have as parents, as stakeholders, community members, as teachers, as technical people, those of you that are in the tech, and business people? What are our responsibilities to see that our children are safe when they go online? We know that there is happening, children are being bullied online, and we also know that some of our children were recruited online for terrorism. So what can we do? What is our responsibility? Let's take charge. Let's see what we can do. What can we share with other people in order to make sure that we keep our children online and also they are safe being online. Thank you very much. I know the people, our speakers are going to do great justice to this topic. So thank you, and God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It's a blessing to have the NKF and all the work that it's doing. So I won't take a lot of your time. As far as we are concerned, everybody on this call, all the parents in the world, everybody in tech, child online protection, that space has been ignored for too long. I would say that, we're just beginning to come into the realization that a lot of work needs to be done in this area. And although we're starting late, it's good to see that so many people are involved from different sectors of the economy to ensure that this change happens. And I was so excited when the Unified National Strategy on Child Online Protection was signed into law. Of course, we know that the actual implementation of this kind of law would take a bit of time. It is in that and along those lines that we're starting pre-webinars, we're talking to parents, we're talking to the tech experts, we're talking to the people the NGOs, the people who are involved in the actual work with the end user to ensure that as much as possible, child online safety and privacy is a part of the national discourse on technical development and is a key part of where we're going to in the tech space in Nigeria and in the rest of the world. So I welcome our speakers to the meeting. Again, I think I have the synopsis of the speakers somewhere. So I'll just go through who our speakers are and who the speakers who are currently online. I'll just go through the speakers, and we have a few questions that will drive the conversations. We'll listen to them. I urge you to please write down your questions and hold on to the questions so that after they're done speaking, we'll come back to the questions, and then we'll look at the questions and I'll direct the questions to the relevant speaker. So I'll start with Mr. Solomon Okedara. He's the co-founder, Digital Rights Lawyers Initiative. He's a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, a practicing legal practitioner and researcher with over 14 years post-call experience and outstanding expertise in human rights with a special bias for digital rights, including data protection and privacy, digital identity, online expressions, intellectual property, e-commerce, tech, and corporate transactions, as well as AI. I'm sure he'll mention something about ChatGPT. Then we have Mr. Bernard Ewa, who's the Acting Director, E-Government Development and Regulatory, NIDA, Nigeria Information Technology Development Agency. And Mr. Ewa is the Acting Director, E-Government Development and Regulation. His practice area is at the intersection of tech policy and public service innovation. His professional career spans the fields of accounting, oh wow, I didn't know that, banking, techpreneurship, and IT consulting. He's one of our speakers who is speaking to us. We are also pleased to welcome Ms. Shuagwe Damak, founder and president, Arm the Child Foundation. Shua is a patriotic Nigerian whose passion for education and desire to see the change in her environment led her to form the nonprofit organization Arm the Child Foundation. She has led the organization in the past 5 years to empower over 400 internally displaced children in Abuja with education and skill acquisition. She's a member of the World Economic Forum's Global Shapers community in Abuja, where she's leading a climate change project that uses plastic bottles to fund education for vulnerable children. Help me to welcome Ms. Damak, Mr. Ewa, Mr. Okedara, and we have Mr. Itodo, who has not yet joined but may join us. Samson Itodo, a community organizer and development practitioner with 13 years of experience in elections, parliamentary strengthening, constitution building, youth development, and community organizing. Welcome to our speakers, and I'll go straight into it. I'll direct my first question to Mr. Okedara. And the question goes thus: how would you describe the current state of child online safety in Nigeria? How is the landscape evolving? What are the challenges and the efforts? Your time starts now. Every speaker will have about 12 minutes to speak because we want to leave some time for questions at the end. So I will indicate when you have 2 minutes more and so on. Please go ahead, Mr. Okedara.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. And I'm actually quite glad we're having this conversation this time. It's a very timely one. Tomorrow, I'm going to be at a particular conference on the island part of Lagos, which is on data protection and privacy. But I realized that there's actually a missing session. I mean, we have not actually considered a need to dedicate, so much to discuss the privacy and online safety of the children. So I'm glad this is happening today. And of course, to look into the question straight away, how would I describe the trend? I mean, the situation of online safety of children and their privacy. I would rather say in one word, worrisome. Why worrisome? Worrisome because we now live in a world where our children, as little as 2 and 3 can access digital platforms. And most of the time, they do have this access, without control or some very good control by the parents. And now this exposes them to a whole lot of issues that actually affect their mental capacity and their right to dignity of person as children. To start with, now, who are the children? Now, we have all of laws, which are local laws and, of course, supranational laws, including our treaties, defining children as persons under the age of 18. Now, in Nigeria today, of course, we have the Child Rights Act, and, of course, we have child rights laws in 34 states out of the 36 states of the Federation. Now, so each of these 34 states documented these laws, these provisions to protect these children. And, of course, so I'm going to be picking on the Child Rights Law of 2007 of Lagos State, which provides for right to privacy in its section 7, right to the dignity of human person of the child, in its section 10, and right to freedom from discrimination of a child in its section 9. These 3 rights are very fundamental to proper development and growth of every child. Just like I said it, we live in a world where children have unbridled access to digital platforms. A very exciting and disturbing development happened yesterday, which I witnessed. I call it exciting and disturbing. Disturbing because of the reality of what it is. Exciting for me because now I think all of us now need to jump up and actually realize that our future is actually getting out of our control. Now, how do I mean? So I was with a friend yesterday, and he left his phone with his daughter. I think that girl should be around 4-year or 5-year-old. And all of a sudden, the daughter talked to me and said, Uncle, is it true that Yorubas don't like Igbos? Because they're actually Igbos. And when she said that, I felt so hurt to the bone marrow. Because this is the current development that is happening in a society. Now, I could imagine if there was no adults at that point that could say, hey, Rebecca, Yorubas don't hate Igbos. Yes, we know you're Igbo, your dad is Igbo, your mom is Igbo, but then I'm Yoruba. I mean, every other person around you, you have Yorubas, you have Hausa, we are all one Nigerians. Now, so my point is this. Now, that girl had access to the digital platform, and she was able to access her dad's Twitter and was reading some of the posts, her dad was reading before he left the phone. So the point is, when you look at that situation, it is a reality we have to live with, that our children have access to all digital platforms, whether directly or indirectly. So what do we do? What do we do, honestly? Now, like I must say that, yes, Nigerian government, to an extent, has been making considerable efforts to actually work to protect the online safety of our children and their privacy. And of course, just before we started, Madam Ejitayo gave us an idea of what has happened, about the unified, the effort they have made about the unified policy on protection of online safety of the children. Now, but, beyond that policy itself, the whole thing has to be unpacked. So one, aside the Child Rights Act, which is a federal law, now, like I said, each state had to document and domesticate this law. As at November 2022, we have 34 states out of the 36 that have domesticated Child Rights Act. Now they have Child Rights Law. So just as I stated earlier, I actually made reference from the Child Rights Law of Lagos State, which has robust provision for children resident in Lagos State. Now, so with all of this, is that enough? No, that's not enough. We also have a few other laws. Now, for example, we have the Cybercrime Act, which is a law which also criminalizes some online acts and goes ahead in the other way to protect people, including children. For example, Section 23 of the Cybercrime Act 2015 protects children from child pornography, from child molestation, and of course, from exploitation of child on digital platforms. And of course, offenses under that section attract punishment as much as 20 million naira and jail time as much as 10 years. So when you look at it, I would say we do not have, we may not have a comprehensive legislation as of today. But every other day, our governments are making effort to come up with laws. But are these laws enough? No. Beyond the legislation, we need implementation. How robust is the implementation? Now, we need to ask ourselves, how many of our states have specialized courts for sexual offenses or offenses affecting or regarding children? Maybe, to the very best of my knowledge, Lagos State has a sexual offense, offenses court. I think Abuja also has sexual offenses court. I'm not sure we have up to 15 courts across the length and breadth of the federation that have sexual offenses court or specialized court. But let me tell some of us, maybe who are not accustomed to what some of these courts do. For example, the sexual offenses court in Lagos State takes care of offenses, against children, and of course, women too, case offenses of rape and defilement. Now, when act of sexual intercourse or sexual conduct without, happens to a child, which is any person less than the age of 18, then most likely it's going to be a defilement case. Of course, there are cases of indecent assault against a child. But when it's actually a case of defilement or indecent assault, then such a court can entertain it. And one of the advantages we have in having such specialized court is that, expertise of the judicial officers are actually increased on a regular basis because they encounter such cases, regularly. Imagine you having a court who, in a day, entertains cases on defilement of children, about 10 of them, and you have another court that entertains cases on land matters, on chieftaincy, on commercial, and all of that. And maybe once in a month takes up a case of defilement of a child. such a judicial officer may not be well accustomed with such a case. So, and I can tell you, I do tell people that if you are a man or a woman and you're in Lagos State, even if you're going to be hypnotized from your village, please don't let that hypnotization drive you to offenses like defilement or sexual assault or indecent assault. You know why? Lagos State government has zero tolerance. I mean, zero tolerance for sexual offenses, particularly when the offense is against a child. Such an offender may never get bail until completion of trial. So I am saying, when you look at that, that is a huge discouragement, to issue a violation of the child's rights, whether online or offline. And this, I mean, including an adult sending pornography or some indecent pictures and images to a child online. When you do that, you are caught, you're prosecuted. Trust me, you are most likely not going to get bail, and the full weight of law will actually be deployed against you heavily. I can say that. So yes, that's a good one. But then, what is the role of the parents? To what extent are these parents really monitoring the children? Now, today we know we live in cities that are quite busy. Every parent leaves home in the morning and you go back home late in the night. But then most of us parents know that if there is anything we really want to do, when we are 70, 80, 90, we want to look back and realize we have raised amazing children. We have raised functional children who have actually brought joy to us and to the society they live in. But the moment we do not actually deploy adequate monitoring to the engagement of these children on digital platforms, then we expose them to all sorts of hazard. So let me quickly talk about the issue of dignity of a child on digital platforms. The good thing is that Section 10 of the Child Rights Law of Lagos State makes adequate provision for protection of dignity of a child. It is an offense for anyone to engage a child on digital platform and actually put such a child through abuse, mental abuse, personal abuse, or all sorts of abuse, maybe by reason of where the child is from, maybe by the reason of how the child looks or whatever. It is an offense that is punishable under the law. But then again, a good number of times, we have parents who are not even aware of this thing, that my children have rights that are protected by the law. In some other situation, my children have rights that when such rights is violated by any person or entity, then the weight of law can actually descend on such a person. Now, so when there was a very fantastic case that happened in this country, and anytime I remember,
please just check my chat. Thank you. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. That's fine. Oh, great. Yes, let me wrap up. So now, there was this case of this child. She's a young she's a Muslim pupil, and she was always going to school with hijab as a Muslim pupil. Then the Lagos State government stopped that. Look, you cannot be coming to school with hijab. Then the parents said, look, our child is Muslim and she has to dress like this as a Muslim. The school authority disagreed. They went to court. The High Court of Lagos State agreed with the school authority, and they went to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal said, look, what this child was doing was actually an expression of a right that is protected by the Constitution. And in that situation, you can only, is there any right that is absolute? No, including all these rights protected in the child right law. But for a right to be violated, it has to be by a law. So the Court of Appeal found out that not wearing of hijab in a public school in Lagos State was actually done by a directive of the governor of Lagos State. And by all legal standard, a directive of governor does not amount to a law. So it has to be done by law. The matter went as far as the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court just recently gave his judgment, upholding the decision of the Court of Appeal. So what am I saying? Parents need to understand that their children as much, just like adults, have rights protected by the law. And when there's anything, they can approach the court to enforce the right of their children. So I think I want to stop here, being mindful of my 2 minutes. So I will be open to questions and to address them as much as they come. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okeda. Thank you very much. That was very informative. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to push the questions to the end. I have one or two myself, but we're going to push them to the end. And we're going to move very quickly to Ms. Damak, I apologize, who is going to speak to us about, and this goes right round to the work that she does. Mr. Okeda, you just blew my mind. I was writing so much. Thank you. Thank you for opening up our minds. Thank you for the information. I wasn't aware that these structures existed. So this is great for me. I'm sure it's great for all the attendees as well. And the second question I'm going to direct to Ms. Damak. It's asking for the role. What is the role of homes? And Mr. Okeda kind of touched it a little, of homes and schools in cyber and internet safety of the child. And what opinions or advice do you have for parents, for teachers, and for school administrators? I'm glad that we're extending parents, teachers, school administrators. It does take a whole village to train a child. So please go ahead, Ms. Damak.
Good afternoon, Ita. Good afternoon, everyone present online. Thank you for this platform. The question you just asked is very important. Now, when you look at it, children spend most of their time in two places, either at home or in school. So what this means is, if there's anyone that's supposed to be talking about child online protection, it should be the home front or the school front. Now, where do we start from? I'll start with the home front. Your question highlighted responsibilities and advice going forward. So I'm just going to combine I will combine both in my response because they are similar and also to save time. Now, in recent times, so the day Abdul reached out to me to talk about this webinar, on the same day, I had just seen a content on the internet, a content put out by someone called Jeffrey Marsh. It turns out that he's a groomer. So he comes online, tells kids on TikTok that their parents don't love them because they don't allow them to do certain things. And the first thing that came to my mind was, if my kid was watching this, how would I even know if I'm not paying attention to what the child consumes? So I realized that one of the things that has to be done at home is to track content that kids consume. Now, one thing with kids these days is they are a lot smarter than we were when we were kids. So sometimes they can be steps ahead of you, especially when they have something to hide. Now, when it comes to tracking content, I realized that the first step we need to do is to have conversations with the kids. There's a lot of content on the internet, even available on the internet. Let them know how harmful this content can be. This is the effect it can have from you. Because sometimes when you tell kids don't do this, it looks like it's more attractive to do. But most times when they know the effect of such content on themselves, it will stop them from consuming such content. Another thing that parents need to do is to establish clear-cut rules on gadget usage and the time for usage. So these days you have in families or at home front, you have kids in the room all the time, just working with their gadgets. And when parents come back from work, they're just in the sitting room. The kids are in the room consuming whatever they want to consume on the internet. Give kids time frames for gadget consumption. And at some point, invite them out, have conversations with them. Sometimes this talk time, or some people call it, there's a name my friend calls it, but that's what I'll say. They are different. If you have talk times with your kids, you can understand what type of information they consume on the internet. And these days, it's also important for parents to have social media platforms, because I'll give an example of what the first speaker said. He spoke about his friend's daughter who said something about Yorubas hating Igbos. The only reason she should have had access to that information is because she's on social media, because it's mostly on social media that topic is going around. And these days, you have kids under 18 on social media. They can adjust their age. I was telling one of my friends, I even me too, I joined social media when I was underage. I adjusted my age. But at the time, I just did it because I wanted to be on social media. But now there's harmful, you join Twitter and we have pornographic content on Twitter. No child under 18 should have access to pornographic content. On a normal day, if you even read about it, it can be harmful for adults, not to talk of children. Now, from time to time, if parents, if you're on social media, you can monitor because sometimes if you collect your child's phone, go through the phone, you see that they have, ordinarily, a child shouldn't even be on social media. But if they are on social media, instead of stopping them, look at what you're consuming there and have access to these accounts, collect the passwords, monitor what's being consumed there, monitor the pages you're following there, and provide access to there are more, how do I put this? There are contents that are child-friendly and can also be entertaining. Let children have more access to such content to keep them busy and distracted enough, rather than having them consume contents that are not, helpful for them. Now, when we come back to the role of the school, sensitization is very important. Schools need to sensitize kids on what is available on the internet. Introduce them to, schools should start, should introduce courses that contain digital knowledge, what is available on the internet, healthy and harmful content, how to, the effects, back to what I said about the home front today, effect these harmful contents can have on the kids and why they should avoid such content, phishing attacks. These days, because we have groomers on the internet, you find that kids are sharing personal information. There's someone on the internet telling them, take pictures of themselves and send to them. There's someone on the internet telling them to share card details. One of my colleagues said that sometimes her child pays for apps on her phone, and I can imagine that the child has access to her card details. So if there's a groomer talking to someone's child on the internet, he asks for card details, and next thing you know, internet fraud has been committed. There are phishing attacks, there's cyberbullying. Sometimes kids have, like I said earlier on, they're on social media. They shouldn't be ordinarily, so it should be discouraged. But if they're on social media, they can have someone bullying them. Sometime last year, there was a girl, videos of a 12-year-old girl leaked on the internet. I can't remember which school, but they went for an excursion in Dubai, and it turns out that she had sex with her classmate. That girl is 12 years old. Her video was making rounds on the internet. Ordinarily, if we had proper child protection rights, that video shouldn't even make it to the internet, but it made it to the internet, and we had even adults retweeting it. So that girl's personal rights have been violated. If first off, she made a video of the internet of her having sex, how did it get to the internet? It was uploaded by one of them there. If they had basic knowledge of what they should do and what they shouldn't do on the internet, that video wouldn't have gotten to the internet. In fact, I'll say if she had not been consuming certain informations on the internet like pornography, she may not have even known how to have sex. But that is not the only cause, but I'm giving examples, potential examples. Schools should also collect information of websites that contain harmful content. Well, in fact, I feel like when you collect such information, open a register. The way Lagos and some states have child offenders register, there should be a register for websites that contain offensive or harmful content for kids. Share these websites with parents, and so they can monitor, as they are monitoring what their parents are consuming, their children are consuming on the internet. They can ensure that children don't have access to such websites. I think school administrators should also discourage kids from coming to school with personal gadgets. While parents can monitor what kids do with their gadgets, it's also possible that some kids can do things outside of what the parents are monitoring. So sometimes you have kids coming from different backgrounds to school with their gadgets. So your child who you've been able to monitor and sensitize on harmful content and how to avoid it will be avoiding it, but that child may have a friend in school who has such harmful content on his or her own phone, and the child comes to school with the phone or tab or whatever gadget it is, and other children have access to such information, which, of course, like I mentioned earlier on, is harmful. So schools should discourage children from coming to school with personal gadgets. Let them use gadgets provided by the school. And these gadgets provided by the school should have a lot of restrictions so that you don't have children visiting websites that they shouldn't be visiting. You don't have children going on social media to put out information about themselves that are potentially harmful, that can be used by phishing accounts on the internet, or catfish. Yeah, they call it catfish, or phishing accounts on.
Okay. I sent a note to you. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. All right. Give me a minute. Okay. Thank you. Yes, back to what I was saying. So I'll round up now. Schools should discourage children from coming to school with personal gadgets. I think schools should also maintain online presence. So have social media pages, and with this online presence, you would have access to the types of information that certain pages share, and they can also make it to the register of harmful contents that shouldn't be consumed by kids. And this information can be shared with parents so that they can discourage their kids from accessing such information. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. That was great. Thank you. It's interesting just how much access children have to gadgets right now. I mean, everywhere you go, a mother is trying to entertain or distract a 3-year-old, and she gives him a tablet. And sometimes those tablets are actually connected to the internet. They have SIMs in them and they're connected. And you know how adverts pop up because a lot of applications we use are free? There's so many risk factors to children. Thank you very much, Ms. Damak. Thank you for sharing with us. I changed the settings so people cannot unmute, which is okay for now, so we don't have any noise distracting us. And I'm just going to ask, the person who will be our last speaker before we take the questions and then I round up. The question is quite robust, Mr. Ewa, so get ready. So I want to talk about violation of children's rights on the cyberspace and the role of government, and the stakeholders in upholding these rights online. We're asking, what are the regulations? What is it that is ensuring compliance? I'm excited to hear that Lagos State has specialized courts for, sexual offenses. That is news. I had no idea. So I need to go and find out more about it. And I will also speak a little when we're done about data and why every one of us needs to participate for Nigeria to have data. But I'll invite Mr. Ewa now to talk about the regulatory framework. We're talking about child online safety and the rights online. What is government doing? What is happening? What are the regulators doing in this respect? I'm just going to go ahead and change the settings to just allow him to unmute. And yes.
Yeah, I am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
My appreciation first goes to the to the foundation for giving us this platform to discuss this very important issue. Was also so I just said that this is one of the most interdisciplinary issues I've dealt with, and from what I've heard from the first two speakers, I quite agree that this is not just a role for government. This is a role for everybody in the society, parents inclusive. Now, this reminds me about the saying they built industry community that shape the building, and the building shapes the society, right? But in this case, we are dealing with internet platforms. We are dealing with digital devices. And for me, the central question that we are trying to address is how are these devices, how are these new environments that we are so addicted to shaping our world, particularly our children who are is the future of the world. Now, government has rolled out a number of regulations, some of which you're already aware of. Government, of course, there's the first speaker talked extensively about the Child Rights Act, which at the time that it was brought to life, we didn't have the kind of pervasiveness that we're experiencing today. However, it is a continuum. What we are seeing as the potential dangers of children in terms of violations of their rights, is simply a transition from the physical environment to the digital world. But those dangers are there, and even for the most part, don't amplify because of the wide range or the reach of the internet. So the recent, one of the most recent regulations that the National Information Technology Agency and other sister organizations like the NCC and the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission rolled out is the code of practice for computer platforms and interactive intermediaries. This is in recognition of the role that technology platforms are playing. Right. This is also for that recognition of the essence of multi-stakeholder collaborations in not just developing regulations, but enforcing them and making their use, ensuring that there is compliance. So what I'm saying is that there is responsibility, at different levels of the stakeholder community. For government, it's coming up with regulations like this, including the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, right, is an exercise of government's official responsibility. However, government is not doing this alone. In NIDA, we have adopted the approach of co-creating regulations, as a way of and giving us the benefits of better understanding where other stakeholders are as far as the issue that we are seeking to address is concerned. Two, ensuring that stakeholder input is sufficiently captured in the process, and to ensure that there is adequate buy-in and ownership throughout the process of developing the regulation and so during the process of yes. So how are these violations being dealt with? Out of the critical, one of the most effective ways to deal with these violations is to anticipate them, and ensuring that, for what I just said earlier on, that they are incorporated, other measures are incorporated in regulations that prevent them. Right. And two, ensuring that where those provisions are contained in the regulations, that different players sufficiently understand their roles and take steps to ensure that they have adequate processes to eliminate or reduce the tendencies of children to fall prey to the issues that are the center of child online safety. Right. So one of the regulations I just want to talk a little bit more about is I know entire section was going to talk about the data protection, but yeah, I'm not going to. The point I want to make here, a quick one for that matter, is that the regulations that are coming up and the focus of government, shouldn't just be and isn't just around knowing where number of children that use have access to the internet, where they are, and so on. Right. One of the key objectives of the code of practice regulations is to ensure that there is deliberate efforts by platform owners to ensure safety. One, either in the designs of their the systems and applications, the institution of safety modes that protect children, and the monitoring of users. Now, the monitoring of users has gone quite advanced now, because most, even the platforms themselves may be guilty of the same acts that we are trying to protect. How do they harvest data, and what do they do with the data? Who is the data beneficiary? These are issues, right, around violations. My point is that the data that is being generated on children and is as important in the pursuit of safety of children. Right? But with algorithms today that can, I mean, I don't want to talk about AI and so on, but such algorithms that can, bring out insights or enable more insights on children, to the detriment and to the benefit of platform owners and other users of data in the internet. Something that is something that is of interest to government agencies, and steps that are being followed to ensure that there is an expected level of civility, respect, and protection of rights of children, not just children, every other. The other and last point I'd like to make is around education awareness. We are at the crossroads between empowering our kids and protecting them, and that is the path where we are, particularly as parents, we have a very important role to play, because it's almost like what we talk about, saving the rod and spoiling the kid, right? So giving the kids access to the internet because you want to promote the child's knowledge, because you want to ensure the child is entertained at the detriment of the child's safety. These are issues that we as parents must take very seriously, understand the regulations that government is providing. These regulations are not just for tech companies, they're not just for civil society organizations, they're for parents as much as any other stakeholder. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So this is a good time for us to take questions. Are there questions? Questions, comments, inputs? You know, you didn't speak, you have some input. Yes, I can see Mr. Kimball's hand up. Please go ahead. Sorry, I need to just change that setting. Please go ahead, Mr. Kimball. You should be able to unmute now. Yeah.
Okay. Madam Itayo, good afternoon. Thank you so much. I hope everyone can hear me. We have a leadership. I hope we can hear me. Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
Can hear you very well.
Okay, so I'm fortunate to be part of this program, this dry run, and I want to commend NIRA and also the board of the NKF for such a drive. I think we are in position, and I mean NIRA and NKF is in position to push further on the development of policies to address the issue of child online privacy, and also make them understand, all parties understand their role, that government needs to do, what the parents need to do, and what the schools need to do. And talking about what the school needs to do, I'll be raising the fact that some few months ago, ISOC, that's the Internet Society Nigerian chapter, in collaboration with DNS, Africa Media and Communication, was able to reach 500 students within Ogun State. 500 students within Ogun State, talking about safer online safety, you know, the safer internet days. I believe that if NKF goes further, especially with one of the submissions by Shawa, I hope I got that name right. The submission, that submission is deeper. Shua, thank you. So sorry for murdering the name a little. The submission of Shua, that sometimes we tell our children, we try to block our children from seeing certain things. We're doing more harm than good by doing that. But if we show them certain things and explain certain things to them and why they should go in those particular areas, it actually makes them understand when they get to their limit, because there's a thin line between education and learning. The fact that I teach you something and you are educated by what I've taught you is different from what you learn from other people around you. I've discovered that most children actually learn on their own. And the children we have these days are more advanced if we are not very careful around them. However, we can be too careful not to expose them to certain things and tell them why they can't go further in understanding more about that because of their age and the damage it could do to their childhood. It's a good thing to also understand that if government, like some other governments, that are actually having challenges at the moment, the UK is having challenges when it comes to child online policies, because there are certain things they would want that the people or the stakeholders feel that is not proper. So we need to also establish what are these things. If NKF could go a little further by doing research, and fortunately, I know there's Nida in the room, and I know from past record that NCC has done something with the European Union developing toolkits that could address such issues. I think it would go a long way if NKF begins to look at also developing those toolkits and pushing those toolkits out to help COSPRA, further deepen its roots around or within Nigeria and across Nigeria, so to say. On that note, I know that DNS Africa will be really and deepen such development of issues, informative, educative, and communicative materials that would make the message go there. Why you should understand the role of the school, why you should understand the role of the parent, why you should understand the role of government. If there's any policy that needs more development or more research and fine-tuning to suit the current things, especially in our country, it will go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, that's important. And yeah, I actually wasn't going to talk about, okay, Mr. Ibe, Anthony Ibe, please go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Itayo. So I'm Anthony. I work with Africa Technology Radio. And when I saw a flyer by Solomon Okidara, I was thrilled. I was really happy on seeing that flyer. And though I tried to register, and there were some technical issues, I couldn't join in early. So I think this is a really important discussion, and I think this discussion has to be amplified and had at different levels. I'm really happy that we're thinking of how to reach out to the children, just like Mr. Akimbo just spoke about. I think education and awareness is like the first thing that would really need to put a lot of effort into after policy, because if the parents and the teachers who are supposed to educate these children on what to do, on these children on what to do not exactly even know how to go around or get around the tech itself, then it would be really, really difficult for them to explain to the children, help them also understand how to protect their rights and things like that. So yes, I think discussions like these are really important, and we should continue having discussions until we get to the point where everyone knows about it, and then everyone understands how important it is. We've been working on a report too on our own end that has to do with digital rights and AI, and I would really be happy if maybe I would reach out to maybe Tayo or someone else on the call to know how much we can add to the work that is already going on by NKF. So that's just the contribution I want to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ibe. NKF is here. Abdul, please put an email address in the chat room so people know how they can reach NKF. Possibly put 2 email addresses so that they have options for how they can reach the NKF. I think this is great that we have so many people willing to partner. Very welcome development. It's great to have ISOC on the call as well. I can also see people from NIRA. We have our head of business development and our project officer on the call as well. So this is good. I'm aware of time. I just want to say a little something about data and the importance of data. I'm a psychologist by training. And so every time that I work, I like data, because we do believe that if you do not capture good data, then you cannot design a program for any end user group. So it is important that Nigeria starts to build her own data. Today, we're talking about child online safety and privacy. Tomorrow, we're having another conversation, but without proper data, it's going to be very difficult for us to properly program. Do we know how many children are out of school? How many children are in school? In these schools, what's the dropout rate? How many children have access to the internet? What kind of access do they have to the internet? Do they have their own devices? We're talking about real data. We need data. And so it is important that particularly NGOs, who most of the time have access to the grassroots in ways that larger organizations may not necessarily have access, and probably using multiple NGOs. So NKF would have to reach out to NGOs that are working in different spheres of the geography of Nigeria, so that you can get, it's really nice to sit in the center and design programs, but I tell you, we have many more children who need our programs outside of the center. How do we reach these children? And I'll give a very short example before we go. I was once consulting for a school, and while we were working, I found that the school, in its bid, the school is not in Lagos or Abuja. In its bid to be forward-looking, the school had put a screen in the staff room with a connection, an internet connection, so that teachers could do research. And there was like a schedule for teachers to follow so they could do research. Most of the teachers spent most of the time that they were supposed to be conducting research, they spent most of this time in private business. In fact, sometimes they put a movie and everybody will watch. when I tried to find out why, they didn't know how to find the information that they needed. So it's one thing to give access to the internet. It's another thing to be able to use the access properly. So yes, the children have gadgets, but if they're just streaming on the gadgets, they're not using it well, because a lot of parents come back with the argument that, well, I mean, school is sending homework on gadgets. So what do you want us to do? So we bought laptops or we bought tablets and we've given to the children. That is very true. But if the children don't know how to find the information that they need for the research that they need to carry out, then you haven't really provided access. And most of the time, they end up streaming and all kinds of adverts pop up. So it is important that we have these conversations, and it's important that we get data. And as parents and teachers and owners of schools, school administrators, and people who are programming for children, it is so critical that we do not just do it over the top and do it in our imagination, or use data that is extrapolated from a sample size that may not be representative. It's important that we find adequate sample sizes so that we are able to extrapolate the data in a more realistic manner, and we're therefore able to build programs that will help the children. We have children from a particular school online. Just before we leave, I want to ask if they want to say something. Is there any of you who wants to say something? I've been watching you. I've been watching your faces and, you know, the gimmicks and everything you've been doing. Nice. But please, anybody want to say something? You can unmute and speak. Do you have something you want to say?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon,
My
Chioma.
name is Chioma KK, and I work for Nigerian Internet Registration Association as head business development. So what I wanted to also maybe add to what has been said already is
can I tell you to just pause a little, Chioma, because I had asked the children to speak, and I think I saw a hand. So just pause, Chioma.
Okay.
Chioma is our head of business development at NIRA. Give me a minute and let me hear the children or their teacher. Okay, it seems as if I ended up chasing the person away. Children, are you deciding on what to say? Who is going to speak? Are you trying to unmute? Yes, they're trying to unmute. Yes, your teacher is there now. Good afternoon. Is that the teacher? Can somebody help you? Okay, I think they're having challenges on muting. Do you want to chat? Okay, you can chat. Oh, yes, now they're unmuted.
Good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon,
ma. Yes,
good
ma.
Afternoon.
My name is Boy Usman. Core member from NIRA. I'm here taking the students on the virtual. Yes, one of the students has a question, and I would like him to come forward and ask a question.
Thank you.
Ask the question. They are listening already. We already unmute our speaker.
You're listening.
They're listening.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're welcome.
I wanted to ask if there's any authority we could ask if we're getting bullied, and just in case our parents won't be able to like handle it, so maybe we can get any authority to report it to.
Actually, yes. Now that you've brought it up, are you talking about online bullying? Just to clarify, online bullying,
Yes.
or bullying in school? Online bullying, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the details, it's part of what Ndukwe Kalu Foundation is focused on. Child online safety includes that the children are not bullied. And maybe I should just keep quiet and allow either Anthony or Abdul to answer this question. Maybe this is one of those times when I need to pull back and allow people who are programming. Or maybe Sure, does anybody want to answer this question? Like, how can they find help when they're being bullied online? Mr. Kimbo, anybody?
We're going to answer your question, so you pay attention. You can sit down.
Okay, so quickly speaking to bullying. Okay, can you listen, students, please? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there are certain things that you need to know. Picking from what Madam Eitayo spoke about on a specific field of study that allows some of us from this divide to be able to, speak to you either online or physically, is the area of psychology. Now, there are two sides to cyberbullying. One is the person who is bullying the other. Second is the person who is being bullied. Both of you must understand your area of strength and your area of weakness. While one person understands that he or she is feeling more informed to kind of like take charge and try to look down upon the second person, that person is actually the person who is having what you can call a psychological challenge when it comes to ego or when it comes to your to understand your other colleagues. If you understand your other colleague, then you're having a balanced mindset. And that is often what we don't understand. The person who is bullying another student is actually having a psychological challenge. And that can be addressed better when we begin to let you understand that apart from the rule that says he who comes to the internet comes to add value. The internet is not made up of information that is already there. The information that you meet online is actually from people like you and I. So whatever you do with such an information tells the kind of divide you are. Are you on the divide that you help your colleagues, or are you on the other divide that is doing what you can call cyberbullying? Sending messages over chat and threatening each other. Sometimes we take it like a show off or an ego to show that one person is powerful. The person trying to show off power is actually without no authority. So, but at a more comprehensive time, I believe NKF will reach out and do a physical, because this, requires a physical training, and then you'll get to know me better. Thank you. Thank you, madam.
So NKF is that foundation, and they will reach out to you students and they will provide support and training. Like Mr. Kimball has said, training is key. Many times bullies are actually bullying because they have psychological issues. Thank you, Mr. Kimball, my co-psychologist. So yes, thank you for that. So Mrs. KK, you wanted to say something. Please go ahead. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Abdul, please note so that we can provide support.
Thank you very much, Ma, for yielding the floor to me. So what I wanted to add to the conversation is, as NKF is also, trying to provide this arm of support to students, how about the school in itself? Are there plans to incorporate child online safety, perhaps as part of the curriculum, so that it is continual?
So there is the new law policy actually makes for how child online safety is going to be disseminated. It includes training for parents, includes this from government side now. It includes training for schools, for administrators, for teachers. It's quite robust. Like we always say, it's robust in policy. It's the implementation now that is so I don't know what school this is, but this is just one school. So this school requires support, but it will be good for us to be able to build a program that you can now place in a more integral way. So not just intervening in one school, but actually doing a policy change that allows the Universal Basic Education Authority, the Federal Ministry of Education, to take this seriously and incorporate it into the curriculum. I think that's one of the pushes that will come from engagements like this, to actually have it into the curriculum. So it's nice to go to one school, to go to two schools, but even better if all the schools know that child online safety and privacy is an integral part of either the tech or the civic education, or whichever curriculum it sits, best in. So yeah, nice point. Thank you.
Thank you very much for clarifying.
Okay, I saw you raising your hand. Our time is fast spent. I am so sorry. This has been a really great engagement. I am very grateful to all the speakers. Can I ask you to just take 1 minute, Mr. Okedara? Thank you. You blew my mind today. Mr. Ewa, can you just take 1 minute? Let's start with Mr. Okedara to just give us a 1 minute last words. 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Madam Itayo. It's been quite exciting and warm. And of course, this organization is doing a whole lot. God bless you, really good. Well, I think at this stage, I have no more contributions other than to say our Digital Lawyers Initiative, we will be available to take up any cases of litigation, because for those who know what we do at DRLI, we litigate heavily on digital rights, privacy, data protection, online expression, and all of that. So in case there's such a matter, we'll be willing to deploy our resources and we'll litigate up to Supreme Court free. Wow. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful day.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. Mr. Ewa, thank you very much, Mr. Okedara. For sure, NKF will reach out to you, I'm sure. Yes, Mr. Ewa.
Great job by NKF. Great job, the moderator. One of the things that I would just want to add is that this field is getting more and more robust. And so it's time that we begin to see more specialization of tasks around. So it's not just enough, to have one organization trying to do everything when it comes to child online safety and protection, right? We talked about the role of data, right? That means that we need to see, NGOs or CSOs focusing on that, yes, right? And engaging governments, yes, and other stakeholders, around the proper use of data, right? And how that data can be used to inform, right? And then we also want to see more engagement between the likes of the NKF and government, right? I mean, this is an issue that we need to, it's there already, but we need to get it in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a great afternoon. I apologize we overran time a little, but I think the conversations were very, very useful. They've been useful for me, and I hope that we'll take this to the next level and that we will continue to speak. And hopefully when the summit proper, when it's time for the summit proper, all of us here will also attend and lend our voices to child online safety and privacy. On this point, I hand the room back to Abdul. Thank you, Abdul, for the opportunity, and well done for all that you're doing. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so very much, Ma. You've made justice to this session. I'm sure all speakers are in tune with what NKF is doing right now, and I'm so great that we've been able to cover this topic as much as we could. Thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this session. Thank you, participants. Thank you for everyone who have spoken. Your contribution means a lot to us. We'll follow up with some of your feedback, and just like the moderator have said, we'll reach out to you in person, and we'll love to partner one way or the other to reach out to the student, the kids, the parent, and every stakeholders who are involved in making sure they protect the safety of children, and most importantly, create a better way to report these abuses in a safe and enhanced environment. Thank you so much. If